Hello, everybody. I'm Father Scott Vanderveer, and I am here to wrap up our series on holy moments. We're going to do two parts right now, talking about some of the great takeaways of the Holy Moments book that we have been reading together this Lent as a parish. If you haven't yet gotten it, you can pick up a copy of Holy Moments. It is a very short and affordable book that has some really good insights about how we can take advantage of the moments that life presents us with very little notice, if any, that empower us to be able to make the world a very different place than it would be if we didn't act. So I've been compiling over the course of reading this book some notes. I've used those notes to create some homilies, but some of the things that I've read haven't made it to the homily. So I wanted to share with you some of the things that were, I thought, very valuable, but were not in the homily content that I worked out with God. So I would love to just share some of that with you. One of the first things that pops up is the great artist Michelangelo said when he was an old man, "I regret I spent so little time on my soul." There could be very few things that would make us sadder than to get to the end of our lives and realize that we weren't focused on the right things. The great monk and mystic Thomas Merton said, "Wouldn't it be a tragedy to climb all the way to the ladder of success, all the way to the very tippy top of that ladder, spend our time climbing rung by rung by rung, just to get to the top and realize that it was leaning against the wrong wall? What if we spent our entire life climbing to the top of the ladder of success just to find out that it was leaning against the wrong wall?" I think that's so powerful. There are many lists of deathbed regrets that people have made that are available to view online. And I think a lot of them are really valuable, especially the ones that are compiled by longtime hospice workers, people who've been with people who knew they were going to die and were reflecting on their life and sharing that with their family and loved ones. I know that among the lists of regrets that people have, I've seen that on almost all of them is some version of, "I wish I didn't work so hard. I wish I didn't think that the tasks of the day-to-day were as important as I did. I wish that I'd allow myself to just be happier, to realize that this is life, that I'm in the middle of life, that I don't need to wait for life to come around. I'm in it right now." Michelangelo said at the end of his life, "I regret I spent so little time on my soul." Very few of us watching this right now are certain that we're near the end of our life. There may be some folks watching right now who are experiencing the end of illness or an experience of maybe a hospice care that is allowing them to know, my time is short. But most of us are not. And so how interesting that we would have a chance to hear this now and still have time to act. I really appreciated in another part of the book, Matthew Kelly saying this: "Just as having destructive power and misusing it is a tragedy, having positive power and not using it for good is similarly wrong." What an important statement. We cannot possibly recognize how much positive power is in our hands. We are able to stop gossip in its tracks by the way we act when we hear it. We are able to interrupt racism. We are able to alleviate hunger, even if it's just in one person. We are able to help a lonely person feel listened to and included. We are able to demonstrate love and respect to someone who feels disrespected and cast off. We're able to do so many simple things. And just as to misuse power would be a terrible, terrible thing to do, to have power and not use it is is sad. It would be interesting for us to consider all of the ways that we have more power than we think. I recently heard a friend say that she was feeling very resentful at her sister because the sister had roped her into something that wound up being just a big burden. And she was blaming her sister in her head and heart for roping her in. And then she remembered, I allowed myself to be roped in. I'm an adult. I'm an adult. I absolutely could have said to my sister, that idea doesn't work for me, and I wish you well with it, but I'm not going to participate. She could have done that, but she didn't. She went with it. She collaborated in her own oppression by letting herself be roped in. So we have to recognize our part in those moments and recognize that we do have power. When we have power over something, we're meant to use it for good. We're not meant to use it for bad, obviously, but Matthew Kelly reminds us we're also meant to not use it. If a little impulse, if our conscience or our intuition tells us, don't get roped into this, we need to listen to that. So that one little tiny nugget from the book has so much fruit on its tree. And I feel like there are so many things like that. One of the things that Matthew Kelly said that I think is really beautiful is that the brain secretes chemicals during the holy moments we participate in that make us feel good, even if the holy moment happens during a time of suffering in our life. What a small little nugget that is with great power. That acorn has an oak tree in it. To know that every time we do something that's positive and life-giving through a holy moment, we're actually putting gas in our tank. Outflow determines inflow. It's probably what Jesus was saying when he was telling us that the measure with which we measure will be measured back to us. Whatever goes around comes around. Do unto others as you would have like done. So when you create a holy moment in someone's life, when you do something kind to create a holy moment, you wind up getting this secretion of brain chemicals that makes you feel fantastic. How beautiful, how appropriate. What a great gift from God. A little signal that we're on the right track. There are other things here as well, so I'm going to continue this into a part 2. I better not call it part 2 though, because we're in the middle of a series. So I'll just say that there's a little more to come. But of course, because there's so many acorns in all of these little moments of insight, because each of those acorns contains an oak tree within it, this book has the power to keep giving to us again and again and again. It's one I'm going to keep around so I can reread it. And I hope you will too. Thank you for participating in this Lent and this journey with us. May God bless you all.